He had the badge, the credentials, the authority, but still, he was treated like a suspect. This is what happened next. You ever notice how the wrong look at the wrong time can flip your whole day upside down? It was a Tuesday morning just after 10:15. The lobby of the Fairmont Business Center in Arlington, Virginia, was the kind of place where nothing much happened. Rows of gray armchairs, fake plants in big ceramic pots, and a front desk manned by someone who hated their job quietly enough to get through it. People came and went, mostly in silence. No one looked too long at anyone else. Except today. Julian McCall walked in with a quiet confidence, like a man who knew exactly where he was going. He wore dark jeans, a clean button-down shirt, and carried a black laptop bag slung over his shoulder. His posture was sharp, alert, but not aggressive, just focused. On his way through the glass double doors, he nodded politely at the security guard near the desk. No response. Julian made his way to the waiting area and stood near the wall, scrolling through his phone, listening to something in his Bluetooth earpiece. Every now and then, he spoke quietly, too quietly for anyone else to make out what he was saying. To most, it would look like a guy preparing for a business meeting, but not to everyone. From behind the curved reception desk, Tara Bledsoe, a new administrative assistant at Graybridge Analytics, squinted at him. She leaned slightly toward her colleague and whispered, "You know that guy?" The other woman glanced up briefly, shrugged, and went back to typing. Tara didn't let it go. Her eyes narrowed. He's been pacing, talking to himself, looks off. She didn't know Julian, didn't ask who he was, but the pieces in her head, dark clothes, Bluetooth, standing alone, clicked in the wrong order. Instead of walking over and asking if he needed help, she picked up the desk phone and dialed building security. "Hey, we've got someone out front. Not sure what he's doing. Might want to check it out." She used the words, acting suspicious. That was enough. Upstairs, on the 4th floor, Julian's contact at Graybridge was running late. He had no idea what was about to go down downstairs. Julian stayed where he was, not knowing that someone just made a call that would change the next 7 minutes of his life. But downstairs, 2 officers were already pulling into the lot, responding to a call that had left out some key details. The call came through to Arlington County PD dispatch as a possible suspicious person inside a commercial property. No weapons, no direct threats, just vague enough to make it sound low priority, but just pointed enough that it couldn't be ignored. Officer Travis Denham and his partner, Officer Paulina Reyes, were the closest unit. Both had been on the force for a few years, not rookies, but not veterans either. Denham was the type who took every call seriously, maybe too seriously. Reyes was quieter, observant. She tended to ask more questions before making moves. Guy in his late 30s, male, black, standing in the lobby, pacing, talking into a Bluetooth, the dispatcher read off. Caller said he might be scoping the place out. Denham looked at Reyes as they pulled up to the building. Scoping? Could be nothing. Or something, Reyes said flatly. She checked her body cam and got out. Inside, Tara watched the patrol car from the window, arms folded across her chest, like she was waiting for proof she hadn't overreacted. Julian still stood near the wall, now reviewing files on his phone. He shifted his weight to one side, opened a PDF, and quietly said into his mic, "Subject confirmed, location secured, waiting for contact." The doors opened behind him. "Sir, can we speak with you for a moment?" Denham's voice echoed across the marble floor. Julian looked up, confused at first. "Sure, what's this about?" Mind stepping away from the wall, hands visible. Julian blinked. He wasn't panicked, just thrown off. "I'm with the Bureau, just here for a scheduled meeting." "Bureau of what?" "FBI." Denham raised an eyebrow. "Got ID on you?" "Yeah," Julian said calmly, reaching for his bag. "Let me grab it." "Sir, don't reach." Julian froze. His hands stopped mid-motion. The lobby, already too quiet, became still. "I just said I'm reaching for my credentials," Julian replied, still calm but firmer now. Reyes stepped a little closer, watching both men. "Can you set the bag down and open it slowly?" Julian knelt, unzipped the bag slowly, and placed it on the ground. "My badge is in the side pocket. You can take it out yourself if you'd rather." Denham didn't move right away. His jaw tightened. Julian stayed perfectly still. "I'm here to meet with someone from Graybridge Analytics. Surveillance inquiry. You can call Agent Jennifer Rhodes from the FBI's field office in D.C. if you want to verify." They didn't call. Reyes's eyes flicked toward Tara, still standing behind the reception desk. The admin didn't say a word, didn't explain what she saw or why she called. "Sir, we need you to sit on the floor, hands where we can see them," Denham said, louder this time. Julian slowly lowered himself down, never breaking eye contact. But upstairs, the elevator had just started moving, and the person inside was about to change everything. Julian sat on the cold tile floor, palms flat, laptop bag untouched beside him. His breathing stayed steady, but his eyes tracked every movement the officers made, where their hands hovered, how close they stood, what wasn't being said out loud. Across the lobby, Tara fidgeted. She wasn't sure what she expected would happen, but it wasn't this. She looked at the floor, then at Julian, then at the officers, then back at the floor again. Her face tightened. She didn't say a word. Officer Denham kept his stance wide and voice firm. "Are you armed, sir?" Julian replied evenly, "Yes. Bureau issued Glock 19. Concealed, right hip. Fully authorized. Credentials are in the side pocket of my bag." Denham didn't respond right away. He didn't move forward. He didn't check the ID. He just watched Julian, like he was trying to catch a lie forming in the air. Officer Reyes took a half step toward the bag. Julian saw it. Left side zip, silver badge case with photo ID inside. "I'm Special Agent Julian McCall, badge number 79261. Reyes crouched, unzipped the side pocket, and carefully removed the badge case. She opened it. There it was. Photo, badge, credentials, everything. All real, all valid. Her eyes flicked back to Julian, then up at Denham. "Looks legit," she said quietly. Denham didn't relax. "Still need to confirm," he muttered. Julian didn't look surprised. "You can radio FBI field ops in DC, or you can call Agent Jennifer Rhodes directly. I'm sure she'll answer." He sounded calm, but it was the kind of calm you wear like armor. Tension kept thickening, even though Reyes now had everything she needed to verify the situation. It was as if Denham didn't know how to de-escalate once he'd already escalated. Like backing down meant losing control. The lobby doors opened again. 2 building security guards entered, one older, one new. Neither said much, they just took in the scene. A federal agent on the floor, 2 cops hovering above him, and a receptionist looking like she wished she'd never picked up the phone. The older guard whispered something to Reyes. She nodded. Julian shifted slightly. "Look, I'm not trying to be difficult, but I'm not a threat. I'm just doing my job. I'm not going to reach for anything without you saying so." Reyes stood up fully now, holding the badge case in her hand. She looked at Denham. "We should call it in." But Denham didn't respond. He was staring at Julian, less convinced he was dangerous now, but still unsure what to do with him. It had only been 5 minutes. Felt like 30. But then came the sound they didn't expect. The soft ding of the elevator behind them. Someone was arriving who didn't need to guess who Julian was. The elevator door slid open. Out stepped Agent Jennifer Rhodes, sharp as ever in a navy pantsuit, shoulder-length red hair tucked behind one ear, FBI badge clipped at her waist. She held a slim portfolio in one hand and a travel coffee in the other. She looked ready for a briefing, not a confrontation. But the moment her eyes landed on the scene, Julian sitting on the floor, 2 officers standing over him, lobby tense as a coiled spring, she stopped cold. "What the hell is going on?" Her voice cut clean through the silence. Everyone turned. Julian didn't even flinch. "Good morning, Jennifer." She walked forward, not hurrying, but not slow either. "Why is my lead investigator on the floor?" Officer Denham hesitated. "Ma'am, we responded to a suspicious person call. This man, Jennifer interrupted, is Special Agent Julian McCall. He's here with my full authority. You've got his badge in your hand, so I'll ask again. Why is he on the floor?" Officer Reyes stepped in. "Ma'am, we were told he was behaving strangely. Security asked us to check it out. He said he had a weapon, so we followed protocol." Jennifer didn't raise her voice, but it was clear she was no longer just asking. "Did he resist?" "No." "Did he threaten anyone?" "No." "So you saw a black man standing in a lobby with a Bluetooth in his ear, and the immediate next move was to put him on the ground?" She looked at Denham. "That what we're doing now?" He didn't answer. Julian stood up slowly. 7 minutes, he said, brushing off his jeans. "That's how long I sat there, while they stared at me like I might blow up the building. Jennifer's jaw tightened. "You're good to go," she told him. Then she turned to Reyes and handed her a business card. "If either of you want to confirm who he is, my direct number's on there. But let me save you the trouble. He's been with the Bureau 12 years. I've worked with him for 6. If you looked him up, you'd find more letters of commendation than most agents rack up in 2 decades. Reyes took the card. Denham didn't. Tara, from the front desk, stepped forward awkwardly. I just wasn't sure. I didn't want to take chances." Julian finally looked at her. Not angry, just tired. "You know what the funny part is?" he said, voice level. "I was standing right next to the directory. You could have just asked my name." Tara didn't respond. Her mouth opened, then closed again. But Jennifer wasn't done, and the next thing she said would hit harder than anything yet. Jennifer stepped forward, closer to the officers, her tone still calm but edged with something sharp enough to cut through the awkward silence. "Before I walked into this building," she said, "Agent McCall reviewed a personnel file. A police officer applied for transfer to the Behavioral Analysis Unit. That file crossed his desk this morning." She turned her head slightly toward Denham, and unless I'm mistaken, that name was Travis Denham. You could have heard a paperclip drop. Denham blinked like he didn't hear her right. "Excuse me?" Jennifer looked him in the eye. "You applied. You listed your academy record, your field time, even the incident where you de-escalated a domestic call without backup. Solid file, honestly." Julian crossed his arms. "I flagged it for interview. Thought you had good instincts. Might be someone who sees people clearly." Denham's throat moved, but no words came out. "You were 10 minutes away from making your first impression with the Bureau," Jennifer added. "And now here we are." Reyes shifted her stance slightly, shooting a glance at her partner. The reality of the moment was settling in fast, and it was heavier than either officer expected. Tara, still nearby, turned slowly and began walking back behind the desk, her presence shrinking with every step. No one stopped her. Julian kept his voice calm. "This is why we talk about bias, because it doesn't have to look violent to be dangerous. Sometimes it's just a phone call, or a decision not to ask questions, or a hand near a holster for 7 minutes straight while someone waits for permission to exist." Denham finally spoke. "I didn't know." Jennifer didn't soften. "That's the problem, Officer Denham. You didn't want to know. You saw what you expected to see." There was no yelling, no raised voices, just 2 FBI agents and 2 local cops standing on a clean lobby floor that now felt like a courtroom. Julian looked at Reyes. "You read my badge. You knew it checked out." Reyes nodded slowly. "I did." "And?" She looked down for a second. "I didn't press the issue. I should have." Julian nodded once, not angry, not bitter, just clear. "We don't get to choose the moments that test us," he said. "Only how we handle them." The elevator behind Jennifer dinged again. Another passenger stepped out, this time an executive from Graybridge, finally arriving for the meeting Julian had scheduled an hour earlier. He paused, confused by the sight. Jennifer looked at Julian. "We still doing the briefing?" Julian grabbed his bag. "Yeah, let's go." But just before they left, Julian turned back and said one last thing, something that would stick with Officer Denham long after this day ended. Julian turned around slowly, one hand resting on the strap of his bag. He looked right at Denham, who was now standing a little too still, as if part of him wanted to disappear into the floor. "I want you to remember something," Julian said, his voice low and steady. "The only difference between you and me in this lobby was that I knew who I was." Denham didn't answer. He didn't have anything to say. For the first time all morning, he didn't even seem like a cop, just a guy standing in a uniform that suddenly felt too big. Reyes looked between the two of them, her expression harder to read now, thoughtful, maybe even ashamed. She opened her mouth, like she wanted to say something, but didn't. Julian didn't wait. He turned and walked toward the elevator again, stepping inside beside Jennifer. Tara stood half hidden behind the front desk, holding her phone like it might protect her from what she'd witnessed. She didn't speak. She didn't apologize, but her face said everything. Jennifer pressed the button for the 5th floor. The doors began to close. Then at the last second, Julian's voice slipped out again, soft, almost quiet enough to miss. 7 minutes, he said. That's all it took to almost ruin a career, and maybe end a life. The doors shut. Upstairs, the tone was different. Julian didn't walk like a man who had just been humiliated. He walked like someone who'd seen it before, too many times. And every time, it stung a little less, not because it didn't hurt, but because it had started to feel expected. Jennifer glanced sideways as they walked down the hallway toward the conference room. "You all right?" Julian shrugged. "I'm fine, just tired." Jennifer didn't press. They entered the briefing room where a digital screen already displayed Graybridge's logo and a list of names tied to the cybercrime case they were working. Julian connected his laptop and began pulling up files like nothing happened. Business as usual. But downstairs, things weren't the same. Officer Reyes approached Denham quietly. "You okay?" He didn't answer right away. "I applied to the bureau because I wanted to do something more," he finally said. "Make a real difference." Reyes nodded slowly. "Maybe today was your first chance to do that." Denham exhaled, eyes still locked on the empty elevator doors. "Didn't feel like it." Reyes looked back at the reception desk. Tara had left. Her screen still glowed, but her seat was empty. "No," she said. "It didn't, but maybe it still can." But what Julian didn't know yet was that one of these officers wasn't just shaken. They were about to make a choice that would completely shift how this story ended. The meeting upstairs wrapped an hour later. Julian closed his laptop and shook hands with the cybersecurity team, his face unreadable. Professional, composed, but there was still a weight in his shoulders that hadn't been there earlier that morning. As he stepped into the hallway with Jennifer, she handed him her car keys. "You want me to walk down with you?" Julian shook his head. "I got it." Jennifer hesitated, then nodded. "I'll call you later." He gave her a small nod and took the elevator down alone. No music, no noise, just the soft mechanical hum and the blinking floor numbers overhead. When the doors opened on the lobby, he didn't expect anyone to be waiting, but Officer Reyes was still there, leaning against a column, arms crossed, expression quiet. Not defensive, not detached, just real. Julian walked past her without stopping, but she stepped forward. "Agent McCall." He paused. Reyes took a breath. "I stayed because I wanted to say something, not because someone told me to." Julian looked at her but didn't speak. "You were right," she continued. "I read your badge. I saw the credentials, but I still stood there and let it play out like you were lying. I didn't ask why. I didn't challenge my partner. I just watched." Julian's voice was low. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I don't want to be another person who sees the truth too late and just walks away." He studied her face. She wasn't trying to save face. She wasn't performing. There was no badge to flash now, just a woman trying to own her silence. "Apologies don't fix much," Julian said. "I know. They don't erase fear or undo years of this. I know that too. But accountability," Julian said, "starts with hearing yourself say it out loud. Most people don't even get that far." Reyes nodded. "I thought I knew what bias looked like. I didn't realize it could wear a uniform like mine." Julian finally gave her a small, tired smile. "It wears all kinds of things. Suits, scrubs, security shirts. It even sits behind reception desks." She smiled faintly at that. "You think Denham still has a shot at the bureau?" Julian's face grew serious again. "He does, but only if he's honest with himself first. The bureau doesn't need people who carry power without understanding it." Reyes stood quietly as Julian walked past her toward the glass doors. Before stepping out, he paused and looked back. "Tell him the interview's still on," he said, "but I won't be the one doing all the talking." But the last scene, unexpected, quiet, and almost cinematic, was waiting for Julian just outside those glass doors. The glass doors slid open with a soft hiss. Julian stepped outside into the overcast afternoon. The parking lot was half full, birds chirping somewhere overhead, tires hissing on wet pavement in the distance. It should have been just another walk to the car, but near the far side of the lot, leaning against a patrol cruiser with his arms folded, stood Officer Denham. Julian's pace slowed. Denham looked up, saw him, and straightened. For a long second, neither said anything. Then Julian approached, not out of invitation, just out of something closer to curiosity. "You waiting for something?" Julian asked. Denham shook his head. "Just didn't want to leave like that." Julian didn't answer. Denham spoke again, this time looking straight ahead. This morning I thought I knew who I was. I thought I was the guy who didn't let this stuff happen on his watch. And now? Julian asked. Denham looked at him. Now I think maybe I've just been lucky that no one ever challenged that belief. Julian let the silence hang a moment. You know, he said, in the Bureau, we deal with patterns, behavior, psychology, subconscious decisions people don't even realize they're making. Denham listened. But what we don't talk about enough, Julian continued, is how we aren't immune to the same patterns we're trained to spot in others. Denham lowered his eyes. I messed up. Julian nodded slowly. Yeah, you did. But this isn't about protecting your ego. It's about whether you're willing to learn something uncomfortable and keep showing up. Denham looked back at him. I still want the Bureau job. Julian met his eyes. Then earn it. He handed Denham a folded sheet of paper from his bag. What's this? Denham asked. A prep sheet for your interview. Extra questions. Scenarios. Real ones. Use it. Or don't. Your call. Denham unfolded it, eyes scanning the page. Julian turned to leave, then paused. Next time you walk into a room, he said, don't just see what's there. Ask yourself what you might be missing. Then he walked off toward his car, keys already in hand. Denham stood alone in the lot, holding a piece of paper that weighed more than it should have. Not because it was heavy, but because it carried a mirror he hadn't been ready to look into before today. The truth is, stories like this don't always end in shouting matches or handcuffs. Sometimes they end in quiet realizations, in questions no one wants to ask themselves, in awkward silences that finally give way to understanding. We can't fix what we don't face, and we can't move forward if we keep pretending there's nothing to fix. So if this made you think, even for a second, about how you see others, how you listen, how you act, then the story did its job. Share this. Start the conversation. Because silence doesn't make us safe, understanding does.